Hello, I am Zinfogel. Only I can get fucked by a new datamine the same day I am catching up. Unreal. Anyway, we got an early Christmas gift. The January datamine has dropped. Similar deal to the December datamine. We have 4 new sync pairs and 3 grids for low tier gachas. So, I am about to leave for my holiday vacations and won't have access to my recording equipment. Realistically, I can only talk about the new grids. Because I will be absent for a while, I will tell you my first impressions regarding the new sync pairs. This is subject to change. It's just an appetizer. Dragon Zone and Ghost Zone shaked up tier lists. Lucas is busted. Immediate self-sufficiency, fantastic team synergy. We're assuming zones work like terrain. Just imagine Champion Iris Snook with a 50% multiplier. I heavily recommend pulling Lucas no matter what. Cynthia is very good, but feels baity. Sorry, Cynthia Bros, but I have to be objective. I don't think Gozon outweighs her awkward rotation. Like, she has to spend a turn using Gozon and another waiting for Shadow Force to land. Funnily enough, 2 consecutive Shadow Balls have better DPS than Shadow Force, because of Cynthia is penchant for quickly dropping special defense. However, Shadow Ball is mediocre. You don't want to be proud of a Shadow Ball out-damaging your signature move. Cynthia is funny because I think she's average as a standalone striker, but she elevates other ghost types to new heights. Like, Ghost on Morty is Nook theoretically rivals Getsis, but it's AoE. I think Cynthia has to play in Ghost Dual Strike to make up for her shortcomings, but Ghost Zone makes her future-proof. She will always have access to that quote-unquote terrain for an advantage. Then, Sabrina, she's okay, very skippable. Bonner is like a special version of Enan Sekrom. You kinda want a classic Alessa to support him. He's okay. As for the new Loki skills, I think I have to make a video regarding the implications. Whether the warrior makes Ingo more busted than ever, and sync pairs like Signos to the Lessa benefit from random stuff like Head Start 1 to fix their kits. Let's get the meme out of the way. First up, we have Thorton and Bronzong, a steel type 4-star tech. This guy won the 6-star EX lottery, which is probably for the worse. I haven't seen any Thornton stands in my life, and I don't think anyone is employing him except ironically. Currently, I would rank Thornton similarly to Bryson. He has very specific utility, but outside of that, Thornton barely carries his weight in battle. He's one of the most difficult sync pairs I have had the displeasure of making work. Thornton's primary function is telekinesis. This move adds a status on the enemy, making them unable to dodge attacks. And telekinesis doesn't check accuracy. So, regardless of how much evasion the enemy has, you can land inaccurate moves on them. No evasion elapses with the passing of time. It has a similar duration to weather. Thornton is an alternate approach of supporting inaccurate strikers like Bosma. And as a fun fact, you can use telekinesis to shoot down acute senses against Yuxi Legendary Arena. The problem with Thornton is that he rarely contributes beyond telekinesis. It's usually easier to bring accuracy support rather than dealing with Thornton eating up a team slot. Thornton's stat spread is weird. His offenses and speed are below average. However, Thornton has good defenses for a 4-star sync pair, with the downside of an exceptionally poor HP stat. Having amazing bulk is pointless when you don't have the health or recovery to sustain it. And Thornton's trainer move is purely defensive. It buffs both of his defenses by 1 stage, and it grants Bronzong a resistance to the typing of the last move it got hit by. This property is fascinating. Typically, Centermons hammer you continuously with moves of the same typing, including their sync moves. And this filter offsets some of Thornton's tanking issues, but it's just not enough to carry Thornton. I have repeatedly attempted to use him as a tank, but Thornton's defensive buffs are selfish and slow ramping, and he needs recovery support. Thornton's moves are Jarreball and Zen Headbutt. The former has a property where if the enemy has a speed buff, it doubles in damage. Most still weak stages in Champion Stadium have X speed all, and you can force it down with a flinch. When given offensive support from Hop or Hilbert, Jarreball does decent cheap on type. Sand Headbutt, on the other hand, has a 20% chance of flinching. With Aggravation 1, it's a 40% chance. And Thornton, his innate tech multiplier is Flinch Heater. Flinch Heater is notoriously difficult to use. Most Centermons in this game have Listen Flinch 8, and they shake it off right away. You want to bring some flinch support like Faulkner or Sawyer to stack the odds in your favor so you can nuke as soon as you proc flinch. However, much like Bryson, Thornton's sync mismatches his moves. This is a special sync move. If Thornton wants to nuke, he needs help from an Omni buffer, and in a cruel twist of fate, Zen Headbutt is inaccurate. Perhaps the intention is that you should use telekinesis before attempting to flinch, but that wastes a precious turn. Telekinesis is a single target and you would need to reapply no evasion at some point. Somehow I have used Thornton less than Bryson. He's a bad tank, he needs full offensive babysitting, and his output is mediocre. Thornton isn't a very good support for steel types either. He has a little theme skill cohesion with Rion. Thornton can guarantee Steel Beam lands if you cannot pick up Rion's accuracy tiles, which is a common issue with his entry grids. And Bosma gave Thornton a newfound purpose in life, but given how horrifically slow Thornton is, you need a really advanced support to carry the remaining needs of the party, because Thornton just doesn't help that much. Now, Thornton's grid makes him a better tank and improves his flinching mode, which is the best we could have asked for, honestly. On this corner, we have Zen Headbutt Accuracy plus 10, MGR2, and Aggravation 1. With these tiles, Zen Headbutt is now perfectly accurate and has a 60% chance of flinching. Suddenly, it's reliable. About as good as Acerola Astonage, sans the extra gauge consumption. Over here, Thornton gained guarded entry for +1 defenses upon entering the field, and he has Trainer move Shielding Strikes and a Barricade. That's an additional defensive buff upon spamming his Trainer move. Thornton ends up with +5 defenses by himself. That's functional if you slap Thornton with some regeneration support, or perhaps healthy healing as a lucky skill. And Jarreball has some funky tiles. Jarreball Defense Crush 4 has a 50% chance to debuff defense. Typically, Thorton spams Send Headbutt to delay enemy damage. Defense Crush 4 is not reliable anyway, and Thorton will never have time to click it. More importantly, Thorton can now call aggro with Jarwal Inspire Ire. This is interesting. It's an on-demand taunt that isn't tied to a trainer move. One application for this is that Thorton can share tanking with another support, but he can now play for power reserves taunting strats, as I have showcased several times in the past, with Solgaleo or whomever. Steel-type taunting is a first, and it gives Thorton a strong cohesion with Kimono Grimsley. Bronzong can take aggro away from B-Sharp after using Metal Burst to keep it safe. Thorton is a worse taunter than Phoebe or Lycia, but he has that one strong cohesive application with Kimono Grimsley or Solgaleo for steel-type skills. I think the best way to salvage Thorton is as a tanky flinch bot, as Bosma support or for stages that have evasion gimmicks. The third slot should provide proportionate speed support through gauge acceleration. Unfortunately, you cannot grab trainer move Barricade alongside guarded entry, so I settled for Farenin Bronzong is physical bulk. Alternatively, you can drop Aggravation 1 to make Bronzong sturdier. With Endurance, he's more reliable, and a 40% Send Headbutt flinch chance remains serviceable. As for the B-Sharp partner taunting mode, you would fully neglect Send Headbutt to make Bronzong as tanky as possible, so it can actually eat up attacks after taunting the enemy. This works specifically well with Kimono Grimsley for type skill activation. Defense Crush 4 also helps enhance B-Sharp is Relentless and Insult to Injury. But you can play Thorton with any classic Power Reserves plus Taunt strat, perhaps by prioritizing Endurance over Defense Crush 4. Now, let's address Thorton is 6-star EX. Thorton now has Catalyst, Sinking Tiles, and Relentless. The more you drop defense, the better the look. Thorton can drop defense with Defense Crush 4, but it's too slow ramping. This demands Tech Magneton or 1-5 Kimono Grimsley to justify it. If I were forced to showcase this, I would bring Fongler and Tech Magneton. Fongler omnibuffs Thornton's offense and can flinch with Air Slash, while Tech Magneton activates Steel-type skills and augments Relentless. Send Headbutt accuracy and aggravation improve Thornton's chances of proccing flinch hitter. You might as well go for Jarwal tiles to improve Thornton's DPS. You can force X speed all in most still weak Champion Stadium stages with a flinch. But even with a 6-star EX Thorton, I don't expect cool results out of it. Use Solgaleo or Samacenta instead. Don't tell me I didn't warn you. So, Thorton is great, lets him execute the job he was attempting to do, but it wasn't a great job to begin with. Also, his nuking mode is needlessly complicated, but Thorton now has a newfound purpose as a taunter. It's something. Up next, we have Gardenia and Roserade, a grass-type 4-star striker. She's a favorite of mine, specifically because of this game. I just think her dialogue is adorable. Anyway, Gardenia is a straightforward striker. She is Brendan Light. Gardenia has Leaf Storm and maximizes crit. Leaf Storm is strong, but has a couple downsides. It can miss, and it drops a special attack by a couple stages when used. You can neutralize that with Dauntless as a lucky skill, but that would dampen Gardenia's trainer move. Her trainer move charges some gauge and it turns debuffs into stat raises. Gardenia has an interesting rotation where she wants to spam Leaf Storm to drop down to -6 special attack and then take a reprieve on her trainer move to maximize her special attack and catch up on gauge. For this reason, she can afford Critical Strike 2 as a lucky skill instead. Roserade also has Absorb. It's a draining move, but it's way too weak to utilize it for recovery proper. It's more so a spammy 1-bar move for gauge emergencies. Roserade has Spinning Sun too, to help with gauge under Sun. This is foreshadowing. And that's about it. I am telling you, dude, she is a simple striker. Gardenia's greatest flaw is her atrocious bulk. She gets flattened by physical damage. To the point, Gardenia is incapable of surviving physical sync moves in 2K Master Mode. Gardenia is decent on type. Typically, you will see her used for free-to-play Champion Stadium clears. Gardenia prefers special attack support from Rosa or Roxanne to set up faster, but more importantly, she needs defensive babysitting to cushion spread damage or sync moves. Gardenia always felt like a worse version of Brendan. Pre-Grid Brendan actually peaked lower than Critical Strike 2 Gardenia, but since Brendan's Grid was introduced, Gardenia never had a chance to compete. Now, Gardenia's Grid gives her multipliers and self-sufficiency, which is exactly what she needed. First, we have Leaf Storm Accuracy plus 10. It makes it reliable and erases the need for accuracy support. Second, we now have Leaf Storm Super Duper Effective 2 and Charging Sun 3. Leaf Storm is quite chunky as far as 3-bar moves are concerned. With this, Gardenia hits about as hard as Hala. Given the proper Sun multiplier, Gardenia is ideal team composition is now Signasud Erika Dual Strike. You not only activate grass type skills for a big offensive improvement, Gardenia is as self-sufficient as Signasud Erika. You can afford Skyla as a third, for example. You might notice Steady Resolve 5 over here. This style is useless. Critical hits ignore offensive stat drops, so Gardenia hits as hard with -6 special attack as with 0 special attack as long as she crits. Healthy Healing takes off some defensive pressure of your support. With this recovery, Gardenia doesn't have to worry about spread damage as much, which is very common in grass-weak Champion Stadium stages. And Grand Entry 2 kickstarts Gardenia's initial Leaf Storm volley. Gardenia also has a decent nuking mode with Double Down 5 and Solar Flare 3. But like I mentioned earlier, Gardenia's best partner is Signasud Erika, and she is a much better nuker. This mode can be justified if your Signasud Erika is at 1-5 or you don't actually have her, like me. Next, we have Trainer Move Bogo 9. When Gardenia uses her Trainer Move, she applies Free Move Next. Gardenia's Trainer Move already recharges gauge, so this is kind of overkill. I like this for Brendan Dual Strike, but I was fiddling with Gardenia's Grid and Bogo is very difficult to grab. Such a cool tool, but it's too expensive. And I saved the best for last. Gardenia now has sunny disposition. When the weather is sunny, Roserade is immune to stat drops. Oh baby, this is huge. We already established that Gardenia's best playstyle is Sun, because of Leaf Storm Charging Sun 3. But with this passive, Gardenia flat out doesn't care about Leaf Storm debuffs. She should always use Critical Strike 2 or Weather the Warrior 3 for a higher damage peak. Then therefore, I think Gardenia's best grid goes like this. Gardenia can barely afford every multiplier tile to fatten Leaf Storm. Sunny Disposition maintains her special attack, so she can hammer enemies with her peak damage. Just bring some special attack support like Rosa, slap Signasud Erika, and you have a very easy clear for 2k Grassweek stages. And trust me, you won't need a Leaf Storm MGR or Trainer Move Bogo. Gardenia and Signasud Erika generate an insane amount of gauge with their innate Spinning Sun. Gardenia is alternative DPS mode assumes the absence of sun, so you can afford defensive tiles instead. Otherwise, you can humor Gardenia's nuking mode. Most grass types nuke harder than Gardenia, people like Mallow, Brendan, and even Dawn, but if Gardenia is literally your best option, it's not bad. With sun support, I recommend something like this. It's a shame you cannot grab a Grand Entry 2 to advance your buffing, and you also miss Leaf Storm accuracy, but this is Roserade is most consistent mode that shares nuking plus DPS. So yeah, Gardenia is now really solid on type. I would not recommend her outside of Grassweek content. Half of her multipliers are based on super effectiveness, and to make Gardenia really shine, she has to be carried by the Signasud Erika, but lacking Brendan, Gardenia is not a bad choice at all. Last but not least, we have Cheryl and Blissey, a 3-star normal type support. Cheryl is a forgotten figure in the free-to-play catalog, and a major reason why is her wildly unbalanced stat spread. Blissey has 50 defense. That's about as good as a 1-star Eggman. Very loyal to its main series counterpart, but this is a huge obstacle. Lopsided stats work in the main series games because your foes are much more predictable. In Pokémon Masters, however, the average player won't bother to learn a stage script. And more often than not, enemies hit both defensive spectrums. Blissey hits special damage like a champ. Her base special bulk rivals 5-star gachas. But the second a physical move touches Blissey, she pops like a balloon. The consequence is that Cheryl is an inconsistent tank. You either bring her for stages with pure special damage, which do exist in Champion Stadium, or Blissey gets obliterated by a physical move you didn't see coming. Now, Cheryl has X special attack all. It's decent, especially for partners like Giovanni. But because of Blissey's physical frailty, people usually favor tanks like Rosa or Torchic. And such is the unfortunate reality of Cheryl. Even with her grid, physical damage haunts her, so this is your fair warning. Tanking with her is a challenge. Now, for what it's worth, Cheryl has a potent trainer move. This is a potion with integrated defensive buffs. Cheryl can patch up other sync pairs while beefing up their defenses. This is both good and bad. Ideally, you want to wait for damage to happen so you can fully capitalize from Cheryl's healing, which means you don't really use her defensive buffs until it's too late. So I find the best way to play Cheryl is by complementing another tank. One of my favorite Cheryl applications is as a Koga partner. Koga buffs evasion and has much better bulk, comparatively speaking. Cheryl can fix Koga's special attack while protecting him with her trainer move. Blissey's offense is composed of Hyper Voice and Flamethrower. Hyper Voice is AoE, but it's pathetically weak. It has some okay synergy with Defense Crush 2 as a lucky skill, but Cheryl is a special support, so it's incongruent. The new Mind Games 2 lucky skill would be better. Flamethrower can deal super effective damage and has a 10% chance to burn. Cheryl's Grid can enhance that to 30%. Cheryl's only passive is Healing Hand 2. She has a 30% chance to clear status from the party when she attacks. This can be handy for surprise status procs. So, Cheryl is decent, but her defense killed her viability. She can only tank Shontal iterations, Dragon Week Yorolance, Ice Week Agatha, Electric Week Acerola, very specific stages. Least she's at 5-star potential, physical moves are the end of Blissey. Cheryl works best as an auxiliary buffer, but her moves are not easy to spam. Blissey suffers from a slow gauge given her horrid speed stat. Oh, and by the way, Sycamore classes Cheryl, so... Onto the grid. Cheryl's most attractive tool is X Special Attack MPR3. That's consistent, and it's complemented by Pep Rally 1. Cheryl can now support special inertia strikers to fix their setup that much faster. How can now cap out his speed in one trainer move, and with crit support, he can go to town turn 2. Same idea for Palentine's Arena. Cheryl's greatest advantage is now maximizing a special attack. She has to play for this to compete with Rosa, Lisa, and Roxanne currently. Besides that, Cheryl now has defensive passives. Wise Sentry 2 grants some much needed, especially defensive buffs upon entry, to help improve Blissey's tankiness. Now, you don't have to wait for damage to use Cheryl's trainer move and fix yourself some defenses. Speaking of, Cheryl's trainer move can be enhanced with Master Healer tiles, and she has an MPR2 for it. I am not a fan of the chance, but it's Cheryl's greatest asset, so we have to make do. Stalwart can be handy. Over here we have Vigilance to spare you the lucky skill. The issue is that it's off the beaten path and takes a significant amount of energy. I would suggest the lucky skill anyway. Healthy Buffer 5 allows Blissey to filter damage when it's at full HP, but it's incredibly situational, and without innate regeneration, you cannot repeatedly proc it. Team Sync Regen does add regeneration to the party when Cheryl syncs, but without a 6-star EX support buff, this is the kind of sync you use when you have literally nothing better to use. I have come to appreciate synchro healing on BP sync pairs a bit more, but Team Sync Regen falls under that area. Then we have move utility. A couple Hyper Voice MGR tiles plus Team Fast Track 2. The intention is giving Blissey the capacity to spam Hyper Voice while generating speed. Perhaps alongside a self-sufficient striker like Anniversary Lily, and giving Blissey Mind Games 2 as a lucky skill to prepare some debuffs. I can see use for this in long matches. So, the standard grid I would recommend would be something like this. Basically, grabbing all the tiles that enhance Cheryl's base buffing kit. Wise Entry 2 for better immediate tanking, with the addition of this Defense plus 20 tile. It's kind of like building a Blissey with 252 defense EVs in competitive. The idea is improving Blissey's physical bulk so it doesn't get sniped by physical damage. Alternatively, you can ignore the defense tile and enhance Cheryl's potion efficiency. Otherwise, you can grab Vigilance if you don't want to roll that on Cheryl. The only other mode I feel comfortable trying would be Hyper Voice Spam. Again, big emphasis on speed generation and mind games too as a lucky skill. Flamethrower is not worth humoring because Fire Week stages in Champion Stadium are brutal when it comes to physical damage. But if you are supporting, say, Leon plus Sabrina or Flannery plus Silver, I can see justification for Flamethrower Cheryl. She does okay cheap. Cheryl is a lot better now, but her viability is a ticking time bomb until Roxanne's Grid drops. When that happens, Cheryl's biggest advantage over her would be Potion and the Hyper Voice mode. And with that, we have seen all the new grids this Datamine has to offer. But like I mentioned at the start of the video, I just won't be able to record anything else until I return by mid-January, so hopefully DNA won't drop another Datamine the same day I drop that video, but hey, that's just a consequence of procrastination, so what can we do? Thank you for watching. Please pull, Lucas, I am begging you. And good luck on your pulls. Take care, and I hope to see you another time.